Good evening to each and every one of you. Thank you all for taking part in this podcast interview series we're doing. It's been a while since I last interviewed someone, but here we've got a guest here, and this guest, he's a man who needs no introduction than the RG Rogue Gunner, Tony McNally himself. So Tony, sir, it's good to have you on board this evening, and I promised you before, since Remembrance Day of 2025, when I had you on the live with Blacksmith, because Blacksmith's passed one of his in-laws' military history from World War II. And
that's right, I remember. Yeah, he was quite knowledgeable. Yeah, I remember Blacksmith. Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't seem that long ago. Yeah, that was Remembrance Day. Yeah.
So year. Yes, and since Remembrance Day 2025, I've promised you to be my first guest for a podcast interview, and it's a promise kept.
It's
a promise is a promise for this thing.
Absolutely.
So good evening to you, Tony. And one thing I will say is, how are things going for you this evening? Before we get to podcast questions.
The sun's out. We can't complain. It's not raining. We get a lot of rain. I live in Cumbria in the northwest of England. It rains a lot. So when you get a little bit of nice weather, it lifts your mood, I find. So,
you couldn't have got that right. You certainly couldn't have got it more right. We've had sunny weather down in Brighton too, and it's often...
Oh, you always get it down there. You're spoilt.
Well, actually, there have been many summers where we've had several weeks on end with overcast weather and coldness.
It can happen, but yeah.
Well, certainly with Cumbria, not to mention, you know what it's like up north and down south, or in the centre, or across the country, effectively.
Yeah.
Scotland.
Just as a side thing, remembering about Brighton, when I was a school kid, I think I was only 15 or 16. No, 15, I think I was. It might have even been earlier. But we went on a mystery trip on the trains. They used to do them years ago. I don't know if they still do them, mystery trips. You buy a ticket and you don't know where you're going in the country. And we ended up in Brighton.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Yeah. A whole day it took there and back, and we loved it. Yeah, Brighton.
Well,
1976, was it? 1976. I think
was when you were 15. Wow, you look good for it.
Well, I think it was. I bought an album. I remember I bought a Stranglers album in a music shop in Brighton. Yeah, my mum and dad didn't even know where I went.
Oh wow! Well, you look very good to have been 15 back in the 1970s. I must say.
Thank you very much.
No, you definitely don't show the age.
Oh, that's good. It wasn't good when I used to try and get into pubs, though, when I was like 17 and 18, and they think you look too young, turn you away. Because when you're young, everybody wants to be older, don't they? And when you're older, you want to be young again.
Yeah. No, I used to get asked for ID when I was even 18 years of age, believe this or not.
Yeah. Oh, the times. I mean, I'd love that now. It's like when you go and buy a bottle of wine or something in a shop, and then they have to come and check, don't they?
Yeah.
Even now. But I mean, that's just sensible, I suppose.
It's common sense in a way. But now getting to the podcast, one important question, because I'm going to go through questions. Unfortunately, I know them off by heart. My first question for you, Tony, sir, is how would you describe your early life and your childhood and your youth? How would you describe it?
I grew up, I had one sister. She was 7 years older than me. I think I'd like to say we got on, but we didn't really get on, because I think my mother was told after she had my sister that she probably wouldn't have any more children. So when I came along, it was like, oh, a miracle, So there was maybe a little bit of jealousy there. But my father came over to England in the 1950s from Dublin and worked in the shipyards in Barrow. And that's why I ended up being born when I was born. And I grew up, away from, I think he wanted to get away for lots of reasons, the sectarianism over there and stuff in Ireland and religious stuff. And I had a really good life as a child, went to school, never really wanted for anything. My dad worked hard. A lot of people have gone through a lot of poverty and stuff. You get a lot of stories and rags to riches and poverty. I wouldn't say we had poverty. We always had food on the table, clothes. I can't complain about my childhood, really. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm happy for you. But how would you describe, say, your early part of your youth? How would you describe that? Because we went through the childhood part, now we're going to the teenage youth stage.
Well, I think what it was, I think I was lucky in one aspect because for being a child, I always, like a young kid, I always liked playing with toys, like toy soldiers and tanks and stuff. And it was more prevalent in the 70s. Used to have a lot more toys in the shops like that, like toy guns and that, and tanks and things, and action men. So I was really into that, and I used to play in the garden and throw mud balls at the toy soldiers and have little walls with the Japanese and the Germans and because they were all different colours. Used to get them in a box. And the British soldiers were green. The Americans were like a yellowy colour, a mustardy colour, and the Germans were blue. And I used to play with them. So, and that got me into, wanting to be a soldier and stuff. And then I joined the Army Cadets when I was like probably 12, 13. And that was sort of put it into my brain, I want to be a professional soldier when I grow up. And a lot of people that I was at school with, they were all going into the shipyard, which was the big employer. And I sort of booked the trend with most of my friends. I think there was one other lad that joined the army, and that was it. I'd made my mind up, which probably didn't go down too well with me parents. Well, especially my mother. She probably didn't anticipate me wanting to join the British Army, knowing about the troubles in Northern Ireland, which I had as a child. You haven't got a clue, have you?
No.
And that's how it went, and that's what interested me, and that's what I did. And then as soon as I was 16, and I was old enough to join boys service, the Junior Leaders Regiment Royal Artillery in Nuneaton, I had to get my parents' permission, and obviously my parents signed. But the funny part was, not funny for my mother, but I remember I was still in my school uniform. I got on the bus and went into town to the Army Careers Information to join up to ask about it. And the guy in the careers office was a Royal Artillery soldier, and he sold it to me, and that's why I ended up going in the Royal Artillery. And then I went back home that night, told my mother, and she almost fainted with, "Oh, you've what? You never." So that was that's going.
It's a good story. Now, Pamela, who's one of my faithful mods, hi, Pamela. She's got something to say. My brother used to play with army soldiers and have pretend gunfights. Now, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, he was just like me, your brother. That's what we all did, and it was quite normal in them days.
Oh yeah.
I remember used to, as well as soldier stuff, you used to dress as like cowboys. You go in the shops with your mother and you'd buy like a cowboy hat and a sheriff's badge and a cap gun. Do you remember you probably don't remember cap guns, Foxy, but you used to get these little guns and it had a roll of paper on it. And then when you press the trigger, it'd make a bang, bang, bang. Cap guns. And we all had them in the days. Yeah.
I can't remember toy guns, but the toy guns there were back in the day in my childhood, they were much more. They didn't look as realistic as the toy guns.
No, these put an orange thing on the end, don't they? But these ones used to make a bang, and there'd be actual like smoke coming out the side, and it was like dead realistic. So, yeah, it was good. Yeah.
No. When you're going to my childhood, which is late 2000s, 2010s, which was when I reached my youth at this point. Toy guns, there were nothing as realistic as the ones from the 70s.
No.
They were all like plastic and like these. Yeah. It was almost like they looked like rather fakes in one way or another, didn't they?
That's why they want them to deliberately look like a fake, don't they? So you don't get confused by, the police see somebody and think, "Oh my God, he's got a gun."
Yeah.
You need to know it's because you can buy replicas weapons, can't you? And some people do get into trouble with them because start waving them about in the street, especially in the climate that we're in now. You can come unstuck there. So I wouldn't advise anyone to do anything like that.
No, absolutely not.
No.
But now, getting to my second question for you, Tony, is how would you describe joining the Army Cadets? And after this one, I'll be asking about what it was like joining the Army and so forth. But Army Cadets, please talk about the Army Cadets.
Well, I always remember it because of one thing as well. In the 1970s, everybody had long hair. I mean, it's a distant memory for me now, but we did. We had long hair. I had like really bushy hair, and I remember I used to have to borrow my sister's hairbrush to comb it. But when I joined the cadets, now you imagine your classrooms full of people all the same with long hair. I joined the cadets and just had a skinhead. And I remember going to school the next day and them all the kids laughing at me and saying, "Oh, jug ears," you know, and all this lot. And I said, I don't care, because I wasn't bothered, because I joined the cadets. And then when they give you your uniform and stuff and you take it home, and it's like, you know, because you just feel part of something and you feel really proud of yourself. And then you start making new friends as well. Because it's, I mean, if you think about it, really, it is a sort of recruiting tool for the military in one way, but it's good, especially nowadays. If you think, if it can get kids off the streets, not everybody wants their children to go away and fight in wars. Don't get me wrong, but you don't have to join the British Army or any of the military. You can be a cadet and then leave, and you know, you don't have to follow it through. And it's just like a youth club. But I liked it. I loved it, especially when you could fire real rifles on the range. The professional soldiers would come down and talk to you, and you were like, "Wow, you know, you could do this when you grow up, son." And you're like, you know, I was an easy candidate. I was into it. So yeah, it was good. I loved the cadets. Yeah, and we went over to the Isle of Man, to Derby. It's probably the first time I'd been a long way on my own for a week. Was it a 2-week camp? I think it was, yeah, in Derby in the Isle of Man. So that was an adventure for a young lad, going away with his mates and stuff, which got you prepared for the actual professional army, because you know you're away from home a lot. So yeah, it was a good foundation for what I did in later life in the military. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds very experiential. All these experiences, very experiential things, and really a lot of life learning, that sort of thing. The cadets, that sounds very, very interesting. And but now to my next big question: what was it like joining the British Army post cadets? And what year did you join? If you don't mind me asking.
I joined in September 1978. Wow. And
how old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
16. It's classed as you're classed as a boy soldier. They don't do it now, I don't think, but you used to join. So you're everyone was at the similar age, 16, and then you did a whole year's basic training, and then you went to your regiment after if you passed out and did your training. But that was like a massive culture shock. I mean, there was times at the beginning there where I thought, what have I done? You know, it's like, it was a massive, like, you know, because you've got these big sergeants and that with big moustaches shouting and screaming at you, and you're like in this barrack room, and the terminology is they beast you. And some of the stuff they did to us, they wouldn't get away with now. They'd probably be prosecuted, because they were quite harsh, you know. Some of the things I did see were wrong looking back on it. What they did, there was no need to be so aggressive, but it's a two-way thing. You can't be too soft, but there's a limit, I think, to
how tough you can be.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. We did drill parades with a drill sergeant major from the Scots Guards, and we soon became fearful of him, terrified of him, actually, because he used to get into a frantic state with us, and I witnessed him hit people with his pace stick, young lads across the head, strike them and stuff, and then he used to make us stand on one leg for like an hour at a time, and if you fell over, you got punished. Now, he was doing this one day when the commanding officer's wife was walking her dog. She saw it. She complained to her husband, and that got stopped. And don't get me wrong, there was some brilliant times, but what I'm saying is the shock of the discipline was I wasn't prepared. I didn't, because you don't get that sort of thing in the cadets. Obviously, you're children, but we were still really children because we still had to go to like the version of the school in the army education, and you carried on doing your maths, English, but they called it military calculations, and they just changed it up slightly. And then you were always starving. You used to go to the cookhouse for your food, and you sort of get your plate of food, you'd be ramming it down your throat, and next minute it was outside, and you're not even finishing it. And people were like, some lads were hiding apples and oranges under their armpits, trying to sneak it out, and then they get caught and they get punished. But I think we had a troop of about 52 in Ramsey troop, and a year later we passed out with about 20. So it shows you the amount of people that left. However, with hindsight again, I think there was probably some good lads in there that just didn't cope with the aggressive aspect to it. And it was too much for them and they left. Now, I was a cadet, I was fit. I even used to go, before I joined the army, I used to go boxing training 3 nights a week. So I got myself fit, and I knew how to look after myself, I thought. So I was sort of preparing myself, but it depends what sort of background you come from, and then thrown into that. For some, it wasn't their chosen path, but it worked because the ones that really wanted it, like myself, you stayed. I used to lie in my bed at night before I fell asleep because you were so tired, you just bang. And I used to think, God, I want to go, I might leave, then I had to convince myself, no. This is what you want to do. And I was more frightened of people taking the mickey out of me, saying, why didn't you do it, than leaving. So, and I'm glad I did stick it out.
Now that's very, very interesting. But as Pamela said just earlier on, it sounded scary and dreadful, all that you saw. I'd be petrified if I were anyone. I can imagine.
There was we used to go on adventure training to a place I'll never forget it, because it was called Dolwydellen in the Welsh mountains, South Wales, North Wales, I think it was. But anyway, I remember the older soldiers that had been there used to laugh at us and say, "Ha ha, wait till you get in the stream." And I was thinking, what are they going on about, this stream? And I was soon to find out, because you were marched up to this stream, and then the instructors would say, strip, and this was in the middle of winter, like ice everywhere. You were told to strip completely naked, which was quite for young lads as well. It's a bit, we didn't like it.
Embarrassing for
young lads. We had to get in the river and do a press up underneath the water, and your head was like a million needles sticking in your head, and it was like, and like an initiation ceremony thing, I think it was, and I was glad to get that out of the way. But yeah, the stream, never forget that. That was just one aspect.
That sounds very intense, that experience.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of other, to get. People would say, and I agree with them, they're preparing you, not that you would think it would have happened, for war. Now, I didn't think I would end up in war. It sounds ridiculous. Why would you join the military? But people for years and years had joined the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, and they hadn't been, apart from Northern Ireland, there wasn't really any major wars on the horizon. So some people could do 10, 20 years in the military and not see any action. So, it was just, it depends on what year you join, basically. But you've got to be prepared, and that's fair enough.
No, that's a very, very good point. Very well shared insight. But Tony, Lord Jim Dandy. Hi, Lord Jim. He's got a question for you. Do you have a favourite war film?
Yes, The Deer Hunter. Ooh. I love it. And there's two actually. I love The Deer Hunter with Christopher Walken, and I like Cross of Iron is another good one about the Second World War on the Russian front.
Wow.
Sam Peckinpah, I think, did it. Yeah. Very good films.
I can imagine. And Pamela had something to say, I would think they'd want to feed you, to get stronger. Well, yes, if you have to just down your food and you're
You would think so. You would think so. Yeah. Obviously, when you get to your regiment, it changes again. But in the training stage, it's probably the
Basic
same.
training.
It is the same in the American Army or whatever. They absolutely break you down to build you up again.
Okay.
And some people can't cope with it mentally and physically, and some people
No.
can't. We had a guy, right, that he was always at the back on runs. I won't mention his name, because he was at the back of the runs, we were getting punished at the end, and some of the young soldiers were picking on him for that, and he was getting punched and beaten up. Now, this went on and on for ages, and then eventually we found out that he had a problem with his lung. He had a lung condition. He shouldn't have even been in the army. So how he got through his medical, I don't know. So that was awful to see that happen. But
I can imagine. But yes, how he got through his medical. I mean,
yeah.
No, but I don't think I could have ever coped with that physically with certain training.
They're not, hopefully, unless you join the French Foreign Legion, I would imagine, or maybe the US Marines. I mean, the parachute regiment and the Marines in the British, they're tough as well. They're quite tough. But there's some, there's limits to what you can do, I think.
I can imagine, yes, you can tell when some early recruits in the army can join basic training and are strong enough to get through. And me, well, I'm a thin build. I mean, some thin builds could get through, but me personally, I don't think I could.
Good for climbing ropes. When I joined the army, I was only, I was only young, but I was only like 8 stone.
Oh, wow, that's cheat.
It's better for climbing ropes and stuff, although they used to make you climb up without using your legs, so you tried to do it with just your arms, which was hard work.
Well, if you've got skinny arms, it would be, and dainty hands.
Yeah.
I've got dainty hands, even in my 20s.
But the good thing was, because I'd done boxing training as a civilian before I went in, I did boxing in junior leaders, and I enjoyed that, and I ended up winning. I've got my trophies here, actually. I'll just show you them.
Feel free to show, Tony. It's not a problem.
I won these boxing titles in junior leaders. And that one in the regiment. So that was good.
Well done, you, Tony. Well done.
I'm not saying you should have to be a boxer to join the army. You shouldn't, but
no.
I think it didn't do me any harm. And even today, I was at the gym this morning, and I was still on the punch bag, pushing 60, pushing 70. God, what am I on about? Past 60. And I always enjoy doing it. A bit like riding a bike. You don't forget it.
Well, if you were born 1960, is it 1962? Was it?
Yeah.
Well, if you were 1962, you'd be pushing 65, not quite pushing 70. Yeah. Which I have to admit, you do look very good for that, Tony.
Yeah.
I mean, not amazing. You could get away with probably about 58 if you were to. If I was to guess how old you were, you could get away with 58.
I like you, Foxy. You're a nice guy.
Well, I'll tell you something. One of my best friends, he was born in 1962, and he looks a lot older than what you look like.
Well, I do know people that were same age as me or a bit younger even, and they look old, and I look at them and think, God, you look it. And then I think a lot of it is to do with smoking.
Or health. I mean,
one of them he's got really bad wrinkles, and he's I think that doesn't help. But keeping yourself, I've always tried to keep myself fit. The mentality, to help with mental health. I try and still go running. I still go to the gym. I write my books. I'm doing this type of thing. I've started my own little YouTube channel.
Yeah. You said it helps with your PTSD, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I'm glad you've got that distraction.
Finding something to focus on is good.
No, you really do. You could never pass for merely 60? Are you 64 now, or are you just about to turn 64?
Yeah.
But when were you 64, if you don't mind me asking?
July the 11th.
Oh, so you'll be 64 this year. No, Jonathan, one of my best friends, he'll be 64 in April, and you look at him, you're like, oh my goodness, he doesn't look good. Well, he had a stroke at the age of 48.
My wife had a stroke actually as well. Yeah, and she's younger than me. Yeah, it's
Wow.
you can't dwell on stuff, can you? But when I go, like, I know so many people that I was in the military with. Purely, maybe a lot of it is to do with just your age and stuff that have passed. You know, they've died, and the amount of people that died from cancer, and I mean, they'll never be able to prove this probably, but, and this is going off on a tangent now anyway, but blood cancer because of radars and stuff. Because we worked with missiles and stuff with radars, and a lot of the lads that have still got it and died have died of blood cancer, leukemia type thing.
Oh God!
And there's a connection that possibly.
No, it's not a nice thing. Sorry about your wife, Tony, and your friend.
Yeah, she's fine. She's fine now, though. She bounced back and stuff. It was only like a minor stroke.
No, Jonathan fortunately bounced back, but the thing is, he has to take meds daily since he had the stroke.
Oh, she does. Yeah, my wife has a lot of meds. Yeah.
And also, he had to relearn his driving test.
Oh,
he had to retake his driving test after. Can you imagine that?
I know it's a bit of a pain, but I get why they do it, because you've got to make sure that you're safe on the road, haven't you?
Well, with being a stroke survivor, yes. Did the wife undertake her driving test?
No, because it was classed as a mini stroke.
Oh, mini.
Not
small. Also, nothing like what Jonathan had, because I think he had to be hospitalized for it. But I think for at least a day. I can't remember, but yeah. No, but your wife looks pretty well for being a stroke survivor. I mean, if anything, I think both of you look better than Hugh Bonneville, and he's actually younger than you.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of people that look, and some of these celebrities that have got millions, and they just basically plastic and injected with this, that, and the other and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's plastic surgery, Botox. Yeah, I don't think Hugh Bonneville ever had that, but I think he's left himself to age naturally. I think he's always been quite old. He's always been older than he looks, hasn't he? Even since Downton Abbey. Yeah, it's nothing like you. He's always been like fairly older than he looks, hasn't he? If there's any way to describe him.
Yeah.
So but very interesting about your the fitness you've done outside of the army, and even when you did the army, pulling up the road. God, that's bloody intense. But yet you were 8 stone when you joined. Wow, I mean, are you of a tall stature or short stature?
I'm only about 5'8".
Oh, so you're same as me. I'm 5'8".
Oh, you're 5'8". Yeah.
I'm 5'8", and I'm also, I used to be 11 stone, but actually I've lost weight.
Yeah, I'm probably about 15 stone now.
Oh, bugger!
I do weights and stuff, and a lot of it is muscle. Apart from, you always have a bit of a belly when you get a bit older, but I've got a biggish frame. I'm not.
It's bigger than mine. Mine's quite small.
Yeah.
Well, tell you what is also small about me is I've only got a 30-inch waist.
Wow.
So I'm thin built.
Yeah, that's good.
So what did you say you were?
I think mine's 38.
Oh God, that's large.
Maybe
wow.
37, 38. Yeah, around about that.
Oh gosh, that's fairly large.
40 inch. Wow, that's amazing. I would have had to go back to when I was at primary school to have a 30-inch waist, I would have thought. Wow.
Really? It took till I was 20 to get that sort of waist size.
Yeah.
Well, my mother's thin built as well. Well, actually, fairly petite built, actually.
Well, that's where you've got your genetics from, hasn't it? From your mother.
Yeah. Well, neither of my parents are big people, actually.
No. Oh.
But it just goes to show we're all different, and it also goes to show nature enjoys variety. Well, absolutely. Well, with me at 5'8" and actually just over 10.5 stone, because I've actually lost weight recently. I gradually started to lose weight since last year, and I've actually lost an additional 5 pounds, surprisingly, and I didn't know.
Okay.
So there's a 5'8" and just over 10.5 stone man, which is me, and you 5'8", 15 stone.
Yeah.
Nature enjoys variety.
I think young people now are actually getting taller, though. I've got a son, and he's 6 foot, and I don't know where he's got that from, because his mother isn't, and I aren't. So You know,
You
they just
both
seem
don't
to
look
get,
like rather tall people. I mean, I'm guessing the wife's quite short, is she?
yeah, 5'4".
So
Probably
about
5'4".
as short as David, my best friend, because he's 5'4.5". You're talking a
Well,
short man, which
yeah,
David,
yeah. For a man,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
and he's bald like you. And Jonathan, he's
Yeah.
also bald. The stroke survivor, he's bald. But the only
Uh-huh.
difference is they've got hair around the side, but a completely bald
Yeah,
scalp.
I've got hair on the side, but I just keep it down to the wood basically. So it'll grow around the edges, won't it? And not on the top. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a bit told off by the mods. Sorry. Right. Okay. Now getting back to the podcast, as I was getting
Oh,
a bit.
you got off track.
Yep. But actually, here's an important highlighted question to really get us back on the track now. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tony. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, mods. Pamela's
that's
asking a question. Could you tell early in training which guys could make it through and which would eventually wash out? Now, that's a good question and get us back on track.
Very difficult to tell, to be honest, because you're so focused on yourself. You know, you're focused on you doing stuff, and we all look the same. We're all like rabbits in the headlights, you know. So I couldn't, apart from the people that are maybe slow at the running and stuff, and the people that are getting. I mean, you could hear some lads crying at night in the beds and stuff, maybe, and you think, they're always surprised if they're asked to leave. So maybe one or two, but yeah, it sounds very selfish, but you're very, very orientated on yourself. Just focus on you to get through, and that's it. But no.
Very interesting response to that. I mean, I think a lot can relate to this, if there's any way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I did have another question. It was quite an important question from one of the guests, even though I have got other questions to ask you. But Lord Jim Dandy's asking a very, very big, strong, and debatable question.
Right.
Tony, do you think they should bring back national service? That's what Lord Jim asked you.
Absolutely not. No. Now, a lot of this is just me. Everyone's got their own opinions, right?
Oh, yes,
And
absolutely.
there's a lot of ex-military that would straight away say, yeah, it'd do us great. We need discipline, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. Now, where I see it, why should you be forced to do anything in this world that you don't like or you don't want to do? You know, they can't make you be a tennis player or this or that, or, you know, a welder or a bricklayer. So why should they make you be a soldier or an airman or a marine, right? Now, and another thing is, you've got people that can obviously be sent to war and then they could die, and that isn't their choice. Now, if I'd have been killed in Northern Ireland or the Falklands, I signed. I wanted to do that. It would have been upsetting, obviously, for my parents, but I just don't agree with the principle of it, unless there is a world war situation. That's different. Or possibly you could do it on a sort of a basis where they're working at home, like supporting things at home, if they're not going to go overseas. But my personal thing is, I don't actually think it would work nowadays. I think what would happen is, for instance, you could get. I live in a farming community and stuff around here, a big farming community. You can get young lads that they want to be farmers and do this and that. Why should they suddenly be forced to be a soldier? But they probably would go when they get the letter through the door. Go, oh, well, I've got to do it, right? Then you've got these bigger cities that are a bit more feral and that, you know, like do what they want. And they're the ones you want to control, obviously, and they make them better. But they would just turn around and rip it up and say, no, I'm not going in. And what are you going to do? You can't force people. That's just my personal opinion. And I just don't believe you should force anyone to do anything against their wishes. When it comes to the military, I think we always had the best military in the world because we were professional soldiers. Professional. We took pride in the fact that we wanted to be soldiers. Professional, not forced into it. But like I say, World War different, emergencies different. But for me, I don't think it would work.
That's a very good, strong, concrete answer you've provided, Tony. And I think Lord Jim, he might be lurking, but I think he'd certainly appreciate the answer. But I was a little slow to highlight it. But good question, Lord Jim, if you're still here. And you've got a question from my head managing mod and strong supporter, Jodie. She's asking you, have you ever trained other soldiers during your military career?
The only time I did it more was I joined the regular army, and then after the Falklands War, I came out for a few years, and I joined the infantry in the Territorial Army, it was called then, the TAVR. And because I'd been a regular soldier, I got promoted straight away to a Lance Corporal, and I had my own squad and did a bit of training there with people. And then another TA unit was actually using my old equipment, Rapier missiles, down in Wiltshire, and I was just showing them a bit about how to use the missiles. And then I re-enlisted again back into the regular army. So I sort of did 2 stints in the regular army. So yeah, just on them. But I never got to any high level rank or anything. I sort of when I was in the regiment in Germany, because I still do. I liked punk rock music and stuff. And it didn't go down too well with the officers, which is a shame, because you should be able to do what you want in your own free time. But they didn't like the idea of soldiers being punk rockers, because they said you were an anarchist. You can't be an anarchist and a soldier at the same time. I remember being told by one of our officers. But yeah.
Very good, very interesting, concrete answer. Lord Jim's got another question for you. Can you drive a tank, or could you drive a tank?
Well, I would say I probably can, because when I went back into my regiment in Germany, in Dortmund, we had what was called tracked rapiers, and it's basically the missile system on a tracked. So it's like, it's not a tank, but civilians would see it and go, oh, look at that tank, right? And the tank works by tillers. Look, pull that way, you'll go that way. Pull that way, you'll go that way, and a brake. It's very simple. So I have drove tracked rapiers, so I probably could drive a tank, I would say, but I've never actually driven a main battle tank, which I'd love to do. I mean, you'd be good in a tank, Foxy, because the smaller you are, the better you are, because there's not a lot of space in tanks.
Well, being a thin build, then yes, I could just get in.
You'd be ideal.
I'm not saying this boastfully, but I'm just saying this in a practical sense.
Definitely, yeah. Do you know the singer James Blunt?
He rings a bell. And James Brown, yes. James Blunt, I'm half and half.
Well, he was an officer in the British Army in the tank regiment. So, and he went on to have a good singing career after that. So, yeah. Yeah, and he's quite a small guy. And he was a tanky. But no, I've never driven a tank, but I've driven tracked rapier, which was quite good fun.
I think David would also be a good fit to just get into a tank, where he used to be quite overweight when I first met him, but he could. Right. He's not large, but he's sort of he's a little sturdier than I. But he's not fat. He's sort of a medium slim, but sturdy. He could just get in the tank too, a bit like me, because he's 5'4.5". He could just get in.
Yeah.
But, sorry, wait a minute, Tony. It was Jodie. I had another question. Oh God, I think I missed that one, but I'll try and look at it. But if not, I'll have to go to the next main questions. No, sorry, Tony. Right, Jodie. Sorry, Jodie. I'm just looking for what you had, and then I really have to get on with the podcast. That is. Otherwise, it would be.
Yeah.
Don't think I can find.
I won't drag you off onto another tangent, because then you go down a rabbit hole.
No, I couldn't find the question. Sorry, Jodie, but sorry, no. Right, Pamela, yes, I accidentally highlighted the wrong one. Pamela's asking, were you able to travel due to joining the army other than go to fight? Now, that's a very important question.
Travel as in, when I was in Germany, at weekends, if we got weekends off, we used to get together, the lads, and we'd hire a car and we'd go in to drive into like France and Belgium and Holland. That was quite good with being in Europe. I mean, I used to come back to England quite a lot, and I'm thinking back now, I wish I'd have done more stuff in Europe. But I remember when we left, you got a list of countries you weren't supposed to go and visit. It was like, obviously, Korea, North Korea, Vietnam was on it, places like that. Places you think, well, I'm not really going to go there. And Northern Ireland, I only went back there once after being there as a soldier, which I felt really nervous about, to help bring his gear back to England, which it was a really weird feeling being there without without a weapon. But yeah, but even though it's a lovely place, I would go back there for a weekend and stop there. Now it's safe. It's good to see it like that now.
Yeah. Now I found the question that I was missing from Jody. Sorry, Jody, I've now just got it. Sorry, Jody, I've now found it. Now Jody was asking, I missed it, but I've just found now. She's asking, what was your favourite part of your military career? Now that's a very good question for my head.
It's a good question, but it's a very difficult one to sort of pinpoint and put a finger on what was the favourite part, because you could be cynical and say when you were in, like, going home on leave, but no. Favourite, probably getting to your regiment after doing your basic training and realising you'd passed and feeling part of something. Realising that you'd managed to achieve your aims and become a soldier. So I would probably say going to my regiment, 12 Air Defence Regiment in Germany, was probably my favourite part. From not that exciting, is it really? But I mean, probably somebody say, "Oh, jumping out of an aeroplane and stuff." But no, I think it was just achieving what I wanted to do as a young man.
Yeah. Oh, and Aussie Queen Jess isn't. Hi, Aussie Queen Jess. Hello, my sweet darling lady. She wanted to say that her uncle was in the Vietnam War and he still suffers today from the effects of it.
When I first joined the army, I used to started reading books on trains. Probably what got me into writing books, because I used to read novels on trains and stuff, and books about Vietnam. I was quite interested in Vietnam, even though we weren't involved in it. Obviously, Australia and America were. One of my favourite books that I've ever read is one called Chicken Hawk, about a helicopter pilot, and that was the first time that they actually used the acronym PTSD after the Vietnam War. So even in the war I fought in, they knew there was PTSD before they sent us to war, but just didn't really mention it. Obviously, we didn't get any real help afterwards. But yeah, Vietnam was 58,000 American soldiers were killed in Vietnam.
I know, it was brutal. It was just hugely brutal, Vietnam.
Yeah. And that goes back to the other question that I was asked earlier on about favourite war films. One of them was The Deer Hunter, and that is a Vietnam War film. And it's about a group of men from a steel town in Pennsylvania that all joined the military and fight in Vietnam together. It's quite a harrowing film. Won 7 Academy Awards. Christopher Walken and Robert De Niro's in it.
And it
highlights PTSD.
Absolutely.
It highlights the effects on people and stuff. I mean, I've probably watched that several times. It's a good film. Good, good's probably not a good way of saying it, but it was an interesting film and educational as well as entertainment. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong highlighted point you had there, Tony, and I think a lot will definitely agree to this point, or what you had to say on that. I think a lot would be in total agreement to it, and I'm certainly in total agreement to it too.
Yeah, it's the good thing we should have though in this country, isn't it? We should be allowed to have different opinions and stuff, and
exactly.
We shouldn't just if people look at you and they see you as a soldier, they just assume you have a one-track sort of mind on everything, like that we're all into war and this, that, and but the people that have been in wars are the best people to ask what war's like. But it doesn't necessarily make you a pacifist, because there's always a time when, unfortunately, the only way to get things done is through war. But that's the last resort. It shouldn't get to that point ever where we have to do these things. But history repeats itself and tells you that it's not panning out that way, and it's just Yeah.
You know what history does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but makes for some good films and some good books.
Oh, yes. But a very important question I was going to ask you, Tony. So we've now got through your early life, your youth, the cadets, and then joining Army basic training. Now, one strong question I'd like to ask was, what was it like serving the Army? I mean, how long did you serve, and would you describe one of your most extreme, if not experiential, moments when you from serving in the Army?
Well, I joined the Army in 1978, and I left
Yeah, we covered that.
In 1988. That's the time span. And what was the other highlight? What was your other question, Foxy?
Oh, some of your most extreme or experiential moments during the time you served in the Army.
Well, we've mentioned the junior leaders, but
no, we already mentioned that.
Probably, well, obviously the most extreme moments of my military service that I think about every single day of my life, which basically, haunts you and has made me ill over the years, is the Falklands War. Because it's an actual war, and you don't ever imagine that you're going to be involved in anything like that, which sounds crazy again, because why do you join the Army? But when it happens, it's such a... I always looked at it like when things were happening around me, when you were seeing like ships being bombed, things and such horrendous violence and death and destruction, your brain sort of like closes down, and you feel like you're watching a movie, and even though you're actually in the vicinity and you're doing it. But yeah, it's quite a difficult thing to actually get across to people as well, because part of it, it's like when my job was an anti-aircraft missile soldier. So I shot down 2 Argentinian jets. Now you don't see they don't see the pilot's face and his eyes and stuff, and when you hit it, you're elated because you've done your job, and you're actually happy for. I mean, they're trying to kill you at the end of the day as well, don't forget. So it's them and us type of thing. So you don't think about the human inside the aircraft. You just think about it's a weapons platform and you need to take it out, and that's what you do. And it's only many years afterwards that you put a person sat in the cockpit and you start going, oh, who was he? How old was he? Is he married? Did he have a wife? Has he got kids? And then that's the sort of onset of PTSD. And you can imagine how much worse it is for an infantry soldier that's face to face with a person who's basically killing them with a bayonet, which happened in the Falklands War, stabbing people to death with a bayonet. How the hell can they not be affected? How can you do that, right? And then come back to England and then go, right, just get on with your life now. It's got to affect you, hasn't it? Because you're human.
Exactly.
It doesn't make you weak or anything, and it's not a political thing. I agree with what we did. I agree that we were just retaking British sovereign territory. It wasn't anything to do with oil or this, that, and the other. It was a simple case. It was a British island that was invaded. So that aside, it still affects you. And the sad part is 250 veterans that went to the Falklands with me committed suicide.
Oh my word, that is so heartbreaking.
And that's only the Falklands. I can't give you the figures on Iraq, Afghanistan, Northern Ireland.
Goodness, what their deals would be.
The way they treated us then was it was that sort of era, wasn't it, where you were just told to go and get drunk, and that's it. And you were looked upon as, if you said, oh, I'm having problems, or I'm having nightmares, or I'm having this, that was looked upon as a weakness. So people didn't say anything, and then they just build it all up, and eventually it explodes. And the reason why most you get a lot of suicides by men, especially more than women, is because men have this thing where they think, I can't tell anybody because it'll make me look weak. And then it just gets worse. But yeah, that period was changed my life completely forever. Northern Ireland, not so much. I didn't see anything really bad there. But it was still like a tense environment and stuff. And the ironic thing was, I thought about this afterwards. When I went to because I went to Northern Ireland after the Falklands War. When I was in Northern Ireland, I probably was suffering from PTSD.
Oh my word!
Because I remember having nightmares when we were there and stuff, and in training, which I hadn't been diagnosed by then, so nobody knew what was what, including myself.
A long time ago, PTSD was referred to as shell shocks. It would have been known as in your childhood.
Yeah.
But yeah, PTSD, it really does. The weight of PTSD is very real after war. It's very real.
Yeah, and it's real on the people that don't get as much mention is the families as well. The wives, the brothers, they've got to suffer with it as well. You know, and there's a lot of people that go through horrendous, divorces and illnesses and stuff. But then this is when it gets thrown back in your face by some that, you chose to join up, but they don't say that to say a firefighter that finds dead children in a wardrobe, do they? They would have sympathy with that. You see what I mean? They would say, oh, what a shame that poor guy's found them children. But for some reason, for some people, if you're a soldier, you're supposed to be, it's probably a wrong terminology, but bulletproof to anything that's wrong with you. But at the end of the day, everybody's human and everybody's just got the same emotions. And I'm glad in one way that it affected me, because it means you're not a monster. You're not a psychopath that just thinks, oh, it doesn't bother me. Like a psychopath could kill person.
Kill somebody, obviously.
Yeah, you've got to have, the more compassion you've got in the world and stuff, the more we're going to get on in that. And that's not a pacifist in me talking, because I mean, when the time's there to fight, I'll do it. I'll protect myself or my family in a defensive manner. I'm not scared to do that. But yeah, we should. We're not perfect, none of us, are we? And but all we can do is strive to be better. And doing these sort of things, like with yourself, Foxy, it all helps. It's all therapeutic and part of the healing process that you can do for yourself. And I'd rather do that than take any medication and pills. And that's why I like writing books, because when I write books, I get lost in the story, and I'm somewhere else, and I love it. Yeah.
No, I mean, I know what it's like when one goes through a low point, or if one feels that their life can never normalize again because of extreme circumstances. I mean, I went through a low point in my life, and I actually did eventually bounce back. And actually, it was like I never thought my life was ever going to normalize, or I'd fully breathe again.
You catastrophize it all. Yeah.
But what got me out of that was I met my best friend David, and he got me in something that I'd never heard of before. And since then, I've been doing it.
Well done, David.
And
don't ever not speak about any of your problems, Foxy. That's the only advice I would give, because it's dead easy to isolate yourself. I did it. Just doing this, what I'm doing now, a few years back, I wouldn't have been able to do this. No, it would have been too much. It would have been too stressful. I think, I can't. So it's easy to say just sort yourself out. I don't mean that, because sometimes you do need medical help from the professional people.
Or therapy if it's under extreme circumstances.
Talking to people is, to me, the best therapy. Communication, especially with people that understand. And that's why if a soldier or someone that's been in the forces has a problem, if they can go on some sort of group or website and chat to other men that are in the same position, or women, that's good. But then the downside, as you will know as well, Foxy, is with social media, you get nasty people.
They're trolls. Those are the people you're referring to, trolls.
What they'll do is they'll think, how can I trigger him? So they'll say something so bad that it'll make you ill. It'll make you ill with, and that's what some people get a kick out of that. And I used to react to that years ago, right? And start and think I've got to defend myself and start, and that's what they want. And now I just move on, block them. Don't give anyone your time of day if they're not going to give you any benefit in life. They're not worth it.
Trolls get that from me, Tony. That's what they get.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I mean, debate's good, but you can tell, you know the difference, Foxy, if someone's been just asking you a question or being all right, and then you get someone that you think he's just going out of his way to antagonize. So just get rid. As they used to say in the military, mag to grid, get rid. It's
Talking is a great strategist. Celestial dances, Tony, and I couldn't agree with you more. Same, Pamela. Yeah, we couldn't agree with that more. But there was one thing that Pamela said, which I do agree with strongly. Pamela is pleased to know that you and many, many people appreciate what you and others have done for us. This is likely in referral to Falklands. She had another thing to say about Falklands. If I can get this up. Pamela's at the Falklands War was just as she was graduating high school, 1982. Yes, Pamela's 62 this year.
Yeah.
And as she recalled, it ended very quickly.
It only took about 8 weeks of actual fighting. But in those 8 weeks, there was 258 British soldiers killed, 1,000 Argentinians, ships sunk. You know, it was a proper full-on conflict. Some people dismiss it as not a war. I can assure you, if they were there, everything was used. Submarines, they were sinking. The Belgrano was sunk by HMS Conqueror. It was just, it was probably the last war Britain will ever fight at that distance. It was 8,000 miles away from home, and within a few days, the country had organised 127 ships. I mean, they couldn't do that now.
Yeah. Oh, you can imagine how traumatic something like that is.
Yeah, and you know, it's only a little tiny place. There's hardly anyone there, but the British people, and they want to be British, you know. So, you know, they pay the taxes.
We agree, definitely a full war, no doubt. Yeah. No, but those are some extreme things to see, very, very extreme things. But one thing I will need to ask now, getting to the next question, how would you describe what was it like readjusting and adapting to civilian life once you got out the army in 1988, was it?
Very difficult. I didn't adapt really, and I think because I'd just done not that long ago Northern Ireland, I was always checking underneath my car for explosive devices. I'm still hyper vigilant today. I've got to, like, when I'm in a room, I'd like to sit in the corner and be able to see people and stuff. I'm always sort of like, hyper vigilant. So I was like that for a long while. And then because of the military just taught you to just basically get drunk, you know, that's what you were doing. And the difference was I was going out drinking, but not social drinking. I was just drinking on my own for the sake of getting drunk and stuff. And then you go through problems there and you end up getting into fights and then the nightmares, constantly having nightmares. And you don't know why you're having nightmares. And that went on for years and years until I eventually, it's not, I mean, I've been divorced. It was my first wife. She got me to go and see a doctor, give me an ultimatum, and I didn't want to go because I didn't know there was anything wrong with me because no one had ever said. And that was when a counsellor was trying to talk to me, and I was reluctant to even talk to her then. And she said to me, "Listen," she goes, "go away, get a pen and paper," and she said, "and write down all your thoughts and feelings." She said, "You might feel a bit embarrassed talking to me." I said, "Yeah, whatever. I was saying, I haven't got PTSD. What's that? What are you on about? I'm not a coward." See, because you don't know what the meaning. And I scribbled everything down on a piece of paper and I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing. And that actually became the basis of my books, because I turned all that into my story that I put into book form. But yeah, it was difficult took a long time to get on the, and you never are 100%. No, you know, you're never going to be perfect. No one is perfect, but
no, exactly.
Every day's a battle. Every day I think about the Sir Galahad being bombed and all them lads dying and blame. I've tried not to blame myself now because I put it down to the missile failure, but it's difficult that you think, well, if that missile had worked and I'd have hit the plane, it wouldn't have hit the ship and it wouldn't have killed all the people. And it's called survivor guilt, and that's what happens because you survived and they all died. And the most notable guy that was on the ship that day was Simon Weston. He was really horrifically burnt. In fact, he shouldn't have survived. He was so badly burnt. And he wrote a foreword in one of my books saying, it wasn't your fault, Tony. You're doing your job. And it felt really good coming from him. It made me feel a lot better with myself.
That must have felt very healing, if not partially liberating.
Yeah, it did. It did. You know, and going back I went back to the Falklands in 2007 to the pilgrimage, the 25th anniversary. And there was 17-year-old lads killed in the Falklands. And one of the mothers was on the plane with us who went back, and she was just crying the entire time. And she had pictures of him, his bedroom, you know, exactly the same as the day he left. And her life was destroyed from the day he was killed because he was 17. He was her baby, wasn't he? He was a big soldier to himself. But yeah, you know, and you think, well, at least I didn't put my mother through that because she was very religious and she used to go to church every night and light a candle for me, which I thought was really nice of her.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well done to your mother.
Yeah. So
hello to Aspie.
Yeah.
Aspie said she has such respect for veterans who sacrifice so much for our safety. Her late uncle was a Vietnam veteran. Yeah. Thank you, Aspie. Thank you for the nice things you had to say, because Tony here, he's an Army veteran.
Thank him for his service. Thank him for his service. Thank you.
And Celestial Dancers wanted to ask you, even though it goes slightly off topic of Army talk, she wanted to ask, what genre are your books? What does he write about?
The first book I ever wrote was obviously to do with my military service. So it was a factual book about my military career. And I so enjoyed doing it and found it therapeutic that I thought, you know, I read loads of books and thought, I can write books. I can do it. So I wrote stories, fictional stories. I wrote a series called the Conor Ryan series, and it starts off with two brothers, one both born in Ireland. One joins the SAS, one becomes a terrorist, and and the whole series is about their life. So it's like military fiction, it would be called, the genre for that. And then the last 3 books I've written, I'm on the 3rd one of this series, is the P23 series, which is a mixture of sci-fi and military. So I thought I'd have a dabble in that, and I've done a bit of poetry. But if you go on to Amazon and just type my name in, they'll come up, or Google, or whatever.
Okay. And Pamela had a strong question to ask. Are you easily startled by noises?
Well, surprisingly, everyone assumes that if you're a veteran with PTSD, that if you hear a loud bang, it all depends. Like, say I'm watching a fireworks display and I know it's going to happen, I'm fine. But obviously, if something went bang behind me, it would make me jump. But it would probably make you jump, Foxy. It would make
absolutely, yes. It would make anyone jump, absolutely, PTSD or not.
As long as I know I'm aware of my surroundings and what's going on, but I wouldn't say I'm overly. It was probably a bit worse after Northern Ireland when I was in the street and you hear a car back, I think, because you're thinking gunfire. But I've been pretty good. I'm not going to say I was jumping over walls and hiding under trees. That I wasn't too bad. No.
No, it can happen to anyone, PTSD or not, Tony. So it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, it isn't. And the fact is, you don't have to be in the military either. Anyone can get it. You can be attacked in the street. You can be a victim of crime.
Oh, yeah.
burglary,
I've actually been a victim of mugging once before.
mugging, yeah, and then people don't want to go out in the street. They're frightened of people approaching them. That's PTSD. It's actually a very, very natural reaction.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Now, another strong question from my head mod and respectable mod, Jody. Do you have any regrets?
Any regrets?
Very strong question there.
Well, I can't really think of anything. Well, not on a military side of it. I mean, just in general, my dad was like a hard-working, he liked his pint at night, and he wasn't the sort of dad that would have said, "I love you" or anything. It was that era. And I remember when he was dying and he was on his deathbed, and I
Oh, I'm
was
sorry.
watching him. Part of me wanted to hold his hand and say, "I love you, Dad," and I didn't do it.
Oh, I'm
But that was
sorry.
a lot to do with how we were sort of brought up and that. Whereas now, I would say to my son now, "I love you, son," and that I'd give him a hug and that, and he'd probably do it to me. But it was a generational thing, so probably not saying to my parents, my late parents, that I loved them more is the only sort of regret from a military thing. I can't really think of anything. I mean, going back to the Sir Galahad ship, obviously I wish the missile had worked, the kit had worked, and I could have shot down the aeroplane. But that's hindsight, and you'll always rerun that in your mind. But no, apart from that, I don't think. That's it.
No, very, very well shared points there. But one thing I will say, and one question I was going to ask now, got through many questions, and another one I'd say, what do you think is one of your proudest achievements from when you served in the military?
Proudest achievements. Right, yeah. After the Falklands War, we several of us were picked to march in the victory parade through central London, and I was lucky enough to get picked. So we marched through London, from Chelsea Barracks to the Guildhall, and I'll never forget the thousands and thousands of British people cheering and clapping and waving Union flags and that, and I just felt so proud of what we'd done, and I just thought it summed up our country. And people, your American viewers will understand what I'm saying. If you think back to the Vietnam veterans, they came back from Vietnam and were spat on, a lot of them, and were called murderers and stuff. There was no victory parade for them. Now, in contrast to us, we had a grateful nation then that made us feel good, and that was my proudest thing I did in the British military. I think the victory parade. Unfortunately, the only downside to that was the Queen was on a state visit to Canada, so I would have liked her to have been there, but you can't have everything. But the British people were there, and I was very grateful for them clapping and cheering us.
Yeah, that's a well shared point, very well shared point. And another thing I was going to ask question wise, your proudest achievement when we got through that, what do you think, if there's anything you would change whilst being in the military, what do you think you'd change personally?
Change. Wow, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Probably, well, you could turn around and say nothing because everything was meant to happen and stuff. I probably wish I'd have maybe stayed in and made a longer career out of it. I think because so many people left after the Falklands and stuff, and it was so changeable. Maybe only I would have stayed in longer. Yeah, probably stayed in and had a longer career. Yeah.
Okay, but sorry, I was just thinking of the next question, and oh yes, the best piece of advice you think you've ever got since your time in the army?
Since my time in the army. Well, since my time in the army, The one good bit of advice, and it was funny because I was just watching something on a YouTube thing before about a guy doing some work on his house, and it's nothing to do with the military really. But my dad always told me to always have my own tools and don't borrow anything. Now, he also told me not to get involved in politics and religion, but that's a difficult one. But probably having your own tools is a good bit of advice.
Yeah. And one question I was going to ask, quite a major question. When were you diagnosed with PTSD? Because I know you've mentioned about your PTSD to me once or twice before.
It was in the early 90s, probably about 1991, too, around that area. And it was diagnosed by a civilian doctor, counsellor. The MOD didn't ask any questions about psychological problems. Even when I re-enlisted, they didn't ask me anything. So, you know, there wasn't part of the medical, you know, they didn't even ask how do you sleep or anything. But yeah, it was a nice lady called Kath that her brother was an ex-Royal Marine, and she recognised what I was saying, and yeah, and then she went back to the GP, and then the GP sent me to see an expert on it, a psychiatrist that dealt in it, and he diagnosed me with it. Yeah.
Wow. So you were diagnosed fairly young, I must admit.
Yeah. But I suppose as well, now it's actually, there's more knowledge about it now and people understand it more. And bizarrely enough, can you believe this, Foxy, right? This really angers me, right? There's what you might have heard of the term Walter Mitties. These are people that dress up and go on parades with medals they've bought on eBay and stuff and that.
I've heard of those ones, yes.
Some of them, to make it adult insult to injury, say they've got PTSD
when they don't.
God's sake. I'd like to be at a because what really pushed me over the edge a few years back was tinnitus. I've got horrendous tinnitus, and one day it just turned up like an alarm clock in my head, and I just flipped. But I'd like to be able to put a lead in there, click it into someone's head, and say, "Do you want PTSD, mate?" Flick a switch and say, "You spend 24 hours in my head, including my sleep, and then ask me if you want it tomorrow."
That's a good punishment to give, actually.
Yeah.
Pamela describes Walter Mitties as stolen valors, and I know what's
that's one in America. Yep.
Stolen valor, well said.
Stolen valor, that's correct.
But most importantly, Pamela had a question. Tony, do you think they let you join too young? What age do you think is the best to join the military? Good question.
Obviously, now at my age, now I can look back and say, yeah, I was probably too young, because we were still children, really. He was 16, because they still gave us milk in junior leaders as well. You know, we had a bottle of milk given to us because they got them in the schools. Now, I wouldn't have at that age. I would have said, no, I'm old enough. I want to be a soldier, right? But now, probably I would say 18 is probably a good age because you're an adult, basically. So yeah, 18 I would say is a preferable age. There's nothing wrong with being in the army cadets at young, but not the regular army. No, till you're 18.
Yeah, very, very well said. Well said point. And Jodie's got a very good question for you. Jodie, Tony, do you have any advice for young people who are considering joining the army? Okay, Tony, that's on you now.
Well, the thing is, do what your heart tells you that you want to do, and don't be, if that's what when it was my dream as a child to be a soldier, that was my dream. I wanted to do it. So I would have been disappointed if someone stopped me doing it. So, but that's another thing about being 18. When you're 18, you're an adult, so you can do what you want. You don't need your mother's permission or your father's. But I would just obviously realize that it's not just like in the adverts that they used to show years ago, and windsurfing off the Bahamas and rock climbing and canoeing. There is a chance that you could go and be killed or kill somebody else. You've got to realize that it is a serious business and can be at times. But if you're prepared for that, you can meet the best people. You can meet some awful people, but you can in civil life. But you can meet some absolutely wonderful people that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And you can actually get a career. I mean, I was in the Royal Artillery, but you've got the Royal Engineers. Now, the Royal Engineers are bricklayers, joiners, that you can come out with a trade. They build airfields. They don't just blow things up. They build airfields. They build. So the military has got everything in there that they've got out here. So it all be really careful about what you choose, because a lot of people get led. I wasn't led because my parents weren't military. But you say your dad was in or something, he's going to lead you down a path to do a certain thing. But always think for yourself and do what you want to do. Like my son. At one time, I said, "Well, why don't you join the army?" I'm glad he never. And now he's an electrician and he works on the nuclear submarines in the shipyard. And I'm really pleased for him, and he's happy. So, but just do what your heart says. Enjoy yourself, but don't do too stupid things. And have a good time. Basically, have a great time. Meet the best people, see the world, and just do what you want to do.
Well, I must say, Tony, that's certainly some fantastic and extremely, if not very meaningful advice to provide to young people who are considering joining the army. Well said.
And be proud of it, and be proud.
Yes. And take it with, seize the opportunity with pride, I'd say something like that.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
I would say that too. If I had, say, a son, for example, and he considered joining the army, I would say, do it with pride and do what your heart tells you to do, but don't do anything stupid.
Of course. You understand if you're a mother and that, you're going to be more sort of reticent about your child joining something. I get
it's like a tenseness. They show this tenseness. My mother's shown them tenseness.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the detective side comes along,
yeah.
Especially with my mother having been brought up in a fairly sheltered childhood, being brought up 17 years of her life as a Jehovah's Witness. 17 years.
Oh wow, yes, yeah. That can
definitely give you a protective
instinct,
that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. That would.
And of course, with her and her siblings being one of very few black or biracial residents residing in a certain neighbourhood in County Kent, it's going to
yes.
Levels.
This is another thing that I like to emphasise as well about my background. My parents were immigrants to Britain.
Yes, true. Irish, weren't they?
Sorry?
Were they Irish?
Irish, yeah, from Dublin.
Yeah.
And my dad came over here to work in the shipyards. He just kept himself to himself. He went to the pub and had a pint. He did his job. He never took one single penny in benefits, and he raised me, a son, who served this country and was proud of this country. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, very, very right.
If I moved to America tomorrow, I mean, I'd fly the American. I've got an American flag flying in my garden, and I've got the Union flag flying at the front of my house.
Wow.
I respect where I go.
Having the Union flag, Jack. Did it ever get you in trouble having the Union Jack flag in front of your house? Were you in trouble with the police for that?
No, because it's not illegal to do that. It's on my own property. But I know what you're saying, because there is flags put on some of the. I didn't put any flags on the lampposts. I put them just on my home. But there was people that put them down the road, and there's a Facebook group around here that jumped to conclusions and assumed, he must have done it because he was in the army, right? And I didn't. And I went on the Facebook group and left them all a message. I joined it purposely to reply to them and told them, no, I did not put them up. However, that's mine on my house. And I told them that I'd served in the military and where I'd fought in the Falklands and Ireland, and I'm proud of it. And I left that message, and I left the group because I just thought, people jump to conclusions and brand people things because you're flying. Now, in America, your American viewers will back me up on this. Most houses and buildings fly the stars and stripes. It's normal.
Very well shared. Well shared point.
When people come on holiday to England, they're all buying British things. You know, like the Union Jack's quite a popular symbol abroad.
It truly is. Yes, absolutely.
You see them everywhere. Anywhere in the world, there's always a Union Jack somewhere on, on a cushion or a picture or a phone box or, it's. But anyway, yeah. So no, I wasn't. The police didn't come and knock on my door and drag me off, but they can try.
Yeah. But now Pamela had a question. Now it's half of it's 50% slightly irrelevant, and the other part is of certain structured relevance. Pamela has just asked. She's observed you've got tattoos. She said, "Tony, I see you have tattoos. Yeah. Are these military related?" Now that's what she wanted to know.
Some of them are. Some of them are. That one says Falklands 82. When we all got back, we all went down to the tattooist in Scunthorpe, of all places, because we were based in a little village called Curtin Lindsay near Scunthorpe, and we all got that one. And then this one I got. Right, your moderators will shout now. But this one I got when I was 60, and that's the regimental crest, 12 regiment. Yeah.
Ooh.
Artillery. Yeah. So the other ones I got when I was like in my 18, 20 and stuff. But I waited till I was 60 till I got that one. And then I had a pint of Guinness for the pain.
But I can't get over your fit body at almost 64. Your body is bloody fit, I must admit.
You just got to keep it moving, I think, is the key.
Oh yeah. There's no way my nearly 64-year-old best friend Jonathan has got a body like that. He's actually skinny.
Yeah.
But it's just we're all different. But impressive. Even Jodie's remarkably impressed by the tattoos. Impressive tattoos.
Thank you.
Well, despite the flashy part, it was an impressive show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The flashy part was when Tony had to take his polo shirt.
Well, you might get some more views.
Well, so long as it was not a lady doing that, that would really.
Yeah. No. You get even more views, but yeah, we won't go down that.
Wait, and Aspie had a question. Yes, darling Aspie. She wanted to know where was your favourite place or city of all places you served at.
Let me think. I probably didn't realize it as much at the time, but I would have to say Dortmund and what was then West Germany, because it was the first overseas posting for a young lad, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing. And pubs were open all night, and it was just a bouncing city. And and this first time I'd ever been on trams. There was a tram system that used to take you down to town, and it was great. I'd say Dortmund. Yeah, West Germany or Germany now. That was before the wall came down.
Oh yeah, no, we all know the German wall. West Germany.
I've never been to Berlin, Foxy. I need to go to Berlin because
I've never been to Berlin either, Tony.
No, I'd like to go to Berlin. Yeah.
I've been to Italy. I mean, I haven't been for nearly 10 years now, but actually one of my great-great-grandmothers came from Italy.
Brilliant. That's why you're so healthy and you got a good DNA, because do you know what I've started drinking? This is another subject again. Olive oil. I have a little tot of olive oil in the morning, and apparently it's absolutely brilliant for you. First thing, on your stomach, an empty stomach.
Olive oil's enchanted.
You look it up, how the longevity of Italian people, how long they live.
Many live to be like 90, 100 years of age.
Because of the diet, because of the olives and the food, and obviously the weather helps.
They grow a lot of their own food because of the weather.
Yeah. Whereas if you think in England, it's worse in the north actually, because it's colder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Glasgow and stuff, the mortality rate in say Glasgow is like, I think it's something like mid-50s. I might be wrong. You'd have to check on it, but it's got a bad mortality rate.
Oh, bugger. No, but yes, but yeah, no, yes. I mean, I have olive oil. Yes, I mean, I have olive oil, Pamela. Olive oil is supposed to be very good for you. I have olive
Yeah,
oil. I do have olive oil, and
it
yes,
is.
most people often confuse me for being either Italian or another European nationality,
Yeah, yeah,
even though much more of my ancestral foreign DNA is Caribbean,
yeah.
Jamaican, because of my mother's half Jamaican biology.
I'd be interested to get a DNA test done, where you send off a sample and just to see what comes back. For me, I
Yeah.
might do that
I'm
someday.
I'm seriously thinking about doing it one day because I'd like to know which part of me is
Yeah,
Italian. Obviously, going
yeah,
to be less than my Jamaican part because the
yeah, yeah.
Jamaican part's going to be the higher part.
Hmm.
Because of my maternal grandfather on my mother's side, because he came from Jamaica back in the
Yeah.
1950s.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Well, this is probably, it's no
You
wonder
need to
why
you
probably
need to
most
go back there and do some research and also have a lie on the beach and a few beers in Jamaica.
well,
Just part of the
it's nice hot weather in Jamaica,
yeah, yeah.
so I would definitely like it because it gets too
Yeah.
cold, bloody cold here, doesn't it?
Just the
And then that's
rain.
like, and it's no wonder why so many people don't believe whenever they see my mother, they don't believe it's my mother because of her youthful look.
Well, I've just thought about it. Can I just say, if anybody wants in an audio book, right?
Yeah.
I've got codes free. You can have a free audio book for the UK and America.
Oh wow,
They
impressive.
go online and have a look, and then let me know or let you know, and you can send me a message, and I can send them a code.
Yes, and asking you the last few questions I've got for you,
Yeah,
Tony.
yeah, because it's
After the
time's
last
getting on
few,
now, isn't it? 10
I've
o'clock,
got,
past me
I've got,
bedtime for these old people.
got final few questions, and then we'll need to finish things off.
Yes, yeah.
When did you re-enlist to the army? Because you spoke about re-enlisting earlier on.
Yeah,
When did you
I
re-enlist?
left in
1988. We covered that.
yeah, but I went in originally in 78. Then I came out for a couple of years. I came out in
1988.
no, I came out in 83 first time. So I did 2 stints. And then I went in the
Okay.
TA, then went back in, and then came out all together in 88.
Oh, so it was all together 1988. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, Tony, but
All if you add it all together, it's yeah.
but but one question to ask: what did you adapt to in civilian life, career-wise, if you don't mind me
Well,
asking?
the usual. You get sort of, even if you don't want to, you end up doing security work. I worked for Securicor, where when you're in the back of the van handing the money out and stuff. I did that, and a security on a paper mill and stuff like that, because they like ex-military and forces to do that type of job, and I did that for quite a lot of years. And then I worked in a cellophane factory on making the cellophane, salt powder factory. I think I worked there for a bit. Yeah. So, but a lot of the time it was security stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And
But I
what?
mean, I'm lucky now because I've got a pension. I've got my army pension, which tides me over, and and I just you don't make lots of money out of your writing, but I don't do it for the writing. I do it because of the enjoyment of it. It's more therapeutic for me. You
Really?
couldn't, yeah.
When were you
You
able
couldn't,
to access your army pension?
well, I got it. I got it early through ill health because I got PTSD.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, yeah. They give me.
what was the final job you did before retirement, if you don't mind me asking? Sorry if it's too personal.
It was security. It was security in a paper mill. Yeah,
Wow. How long did you
just
do it for, if you don't mind me
checking the
asking?
wagons in and out and stuff. Oh, maybe 4 years, stuff like that. Yeah, in between different jobs. Yeah, I never had stayed at one thing for a long time. So
Okay, so you moved on to the next thing after that.
yeah, because you were like fighting about if but back in them days as well, I was trying to hold down a full-time job and I was having nightmares all night, and you were half asleep, and then it was like, oh, and then it's like a vicious cycle of being tired and having more nightmares and going to work, and it's like
It's like revolving door, isn't it?
it just gets you down and stuff. But but yeah, onwards and upwards. Now you just got to look optimistic and get on with stuff. But
Same. It's been since the low point I went through until David came into my life and what he got me into. This thing that I'm hugely into and I hugely promote, things like classic cars, historic commercials, bus rallies and things. That was what I mean. I knew about bus rallies before I met David, but the thing that's much more recent are steam rallies, classic car shows, historic commercials, veteran car runs, etc., etc. I mean, since that low point in getting into those things, that really helped me move forward, and I have an attitude for that.
He's your guardian angel, isn't he? Really?
You know, I now have an onwards and upwards attitude for what David got me into, a bit like with your onwards and upwards attitude. I've got a similar thing for that.
He deserves a lot of praise for what he's done. Good.
Oh, I always say that to David. I always say I actually thank David a lot for what he did.
There's a lot of good people in the world. There's probably a lot more good people than bad people, isn't there? And helpful people.
I agree with you.
But you just hear about the bad ones more. But there's a lot of unsung people that do a lot of good things to help people and no one know about. And it sounds like David's one of them.
Yes, and especially if you've gone through narcissism for a long time of your life, which actually I have sadly gone through, I'm afraid. But fortunately not on my mother's side of the family, but that's generally another story, and that is also quite a hard, subduing story. I was always, like, almost forcibly made to believe that there was a lot more bad people than good out there. And I was always forcibly made to believe that every part of life is unfair. That's not true. Yes, life can throw bad things at us, but trying to make out it's constantly unfair 24/7, that's blatantly false from what I've realized later in life.
Yeah. It is.
That was what I was almost made to believe in a lot of my childhood, which is quite wrong to do in early life, isn't it?
It's a sort of a form of indoctrination, but I mean, that's a subject you could have a 5-hour podcast on, couldn't you? Just that in itself, you know.
Well, narcissism, you know, it's a very, very strong niche of topic podcasts, and they often do well, don't they? Because especially given the hours and how long it can take to get through a podcast, specifically in coverage of talking about narcissism. And Pamela, everything in life needs to be a balance. I agree with you 100%. And now the last two questions. I mean, how would you well, actually, no, that's the last question. And so yes, it's civilian life. And are you ever reflective on anything you do from your past life to now, currently and presently?
Well, I think about it all the time. You know, you're always reflected on what happened and stuff. And like I say, the main incident was the Galahad thing that always bothered me. But I've got better and better over the years, and I understand now it was just the equipment and it wasn't me. I'm just a person. So I'm reflective on a lot of stuff like that. But I think I've got better as I've gone along. Yeah, much better.
And now, finally, this is the last question. How would you describe your current life, be it from your married life and what you do currently and all that? How would you describe your current life now? And what advice would you give to people who are moving on from traumatic times, or those who are if you know anyone who's struggling from moving on from turbulent times, what would you say to that?
When you're in a black hole, you never ever see any light at the end of it, and you always think you can go further and further and further down, and it all depends who's around you and the people in your life. I obviously I had the wrong people, you know. Marriages didn't work and things, and for whatever reason, and PTSD, and then I was lucky enough to meet Linda, my wife now, and she has really helped me, and every day she's like my best friend, and it's just amazing that you need support, and you need some. We all like to be looking. I mean, she makes me brilliant, nice food. I would never have ate as well as I have done because she's a really good cook, and she keeps me positive and she keeps me focused. You know, she still works full time, but she gives me a list of things to do and stuff around the house, and, you know, as well as what I'm doing, you know, online and my books and this and that. But she keeps me active, and I'm just blessed to have met such a wonderful person like that. And I'm lucky compared to a lot of the other people.
Yeah,
you can always not mourn, but you can always sort of pick out the bad things in your life. But compared to some of them, I mean, look at the young lads that died at 17 years of age.
Oh,
They
yeah, absolutely.
didn't have a life. I've had a life, ups and downs, like all of us do. So I'm blessed that after a ropey period, I found someone that I got stability with, and and can see out the rest of my life with and be happy. And I'm sure that's what we'll do together. So that's what I'd say.
Hello to darling Kebby. Kebby, can I thank you for the nice things you had to say about Tony? He is a fine man, and he's a true, and he is a heroic army veteran. Even if it may have came at the bad cost of PTSD, he's a truly heroic army veteran, and he is indeed a fine man with great morals and great courage.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love happy endings. So do I, Howard. I mean, I had a happy ending to my low point when David came in.
This is it.
Although I didn't heal straight away. I was never met with full healing until, where was it? So it was July 2021 when I first met David. So it was about 18 months after I first met him and what he got me into. That was when I was met with my healing.
I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased, and it's good. We all need a nice feel-good factor at the end, don't we? You know,
of a black hole, like what I was going through. Well, at the end of a black hole, move forward with positivity.
Positive. And if you look at life, right, for some strange reason in the cosmos, people pushed us together somehow.
Exactly. And that
how was that? But yeah.
And also, as a result of David, I've even met one of the most wonderful people at the events he got me into. Some people I could just describe to you for hours on end if I was to talk about them.
She may be watching it, she may not, but there's a lady that found me via you the last time I think we did the Remembrance Day, Munchie.
Yes, I know her.
She is absolutely amazing. She sends me a message nearly every day on my
she's a darling. Munchie's a darling.
I put a morning prayer on and I put an evening prayer and she reads it and it's fantastic. And what a lovely people. And it's, you know, it really heartens me that they're in your life, even though you haven't seen them physically, but you're thinking of each other. So, but the podcast in America, she was at the doctor's at 2:30 because of the time difference. But
she's got health troubles.
So if you're watching this, man, Munchie, I hope you enjoy it.
Hello to you, darling Munchie. Tony and I, we think very highly of you.
My number one fan.
And even Pamela had something nice to say. I always enjoy hearing from Tony. I hope he will come back. We'll almost certainly be having Tony again for Remembrance Day.
Thank you.
Because Remembrance Day, Tony always has a good insight to share. From what I've learned since Tony came on Remembrance Day, we'll definitely have him again at that time. Certainly. I will try. Last attempt. Oh, no trouble. So as still dances, I find that living with gratitude and contentment with my lot makes me much happier than I used to be. Same with when I met with David and what he got me into. And then after David, 2 other friends followed. Even though I was healed and at peace with my troubles at this point, the next best friend that came along was Dave Bryan. And then 3 months after Dave Bryan was the stroke survivor, Jonathan Clements. And these 3 men, they do me wonders in my life.
They were meant to be in your life, Foxy. They were meant to be there.
I truly agree with you on that.
Believe that
Thank you, Jody. Thank you. But I'm really happy for you now, Tony. I mean, your PTSD, a troubled marriage, and then now you've got a very, very nice lady, Linda. Is it Linda?
Yeah.
Linda.
Right.
Yeah. Wonderful, Linda. I mean, what does she do?
And my dog, Rocky. I did have 2 dogs, but unfortunately, I had Gunnar, who sadly passed away. He was an old dog. And I've got Rocky, and I go out with him every day, and he's lovely. And I'd say that's another thing with people. I think the American people are better than us, but pets with a dog, they know when you feel down, and they come over and they're just amazing. I think I can't talk highly enough about pets, especially dogs that.
This is just so true. So yes, I mean, what does she do full time, Linda? I forgot to ask.
She sells new build houses.
Wow, So she's an estate agent.
No, she actually works on the sites that build them.
Oh, wow.
And she has, like if you go to a building site and there's a show home, and then you can go in and say, "Can I look round?" and she'll show you around, and then if you want to buy one, she'll sell you.
I'm amazed. That's an amazing thing to do. I mean, well, for a stroke survivor, for your wife, Linda, I mean, that's amazingly impressive.
Oh yeah. In fact, the house that we're in now
she bounced back amazingly from the stroke if she can still do that.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. So do give my regards to Linda and tell her I said well done for all that she does.
Yes, I will do. Definitely, Foxy.
I bet she knows about the podcast. She's probably going to watch it.
Yeah.
So, yes. But what I will say, can I thank each and every one of you for taking the time and watching? I am going to have to finish this very shortly. But once this is finished, Tony and I are going to recap for about a minute or two, and then we're going to be over and out. So this is for Tony. We thank you for your service. Let's salute for Tony for a minute before we go.
God bless you all.
Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you all very, very much for taking the time and watching this podcast. And as promised, Tony was the first guest, and the promise was kept. And
privilege.
I'm not sure when I'm next going to interview the next guest, but we're certainly going to have Tony on again whenever we can. But as I said, we wouldn't have any other guests until Tony comes first for 2026. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. And Tony and I are going to recap for a minute or two, and then we're done. Thank you very, very much for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.